talk sports and more. It's your boy Zion Hezekiah. This is episode number 16 of season 3. And I'm joined here by 3 very lovely guests. We got Dwayne Morgan in the house. Mr. Morgan, what's going on?
Just chilling. Happy to be here.
All right. How's quarantine life?
It's quiet and it's lonely, but it's all right.
As it should be, right?
Yep.
Very good. We got Amy all the way from Niagara Falls. What's going on over there, Amy?
Snowed today, April 21st.
Oh, boy. Wow.
Easier to stay inside.
For sure. How you doing? You all right? Good to see you.
Very good. Thank you.
Excellent. Welcome. And we have our very own sound engineer, Mr. A to the K, Adrian Kwan. What's going on, buddy?
Not much. How you doing?
We're doing our thing. We're living our life. So, guys, let's get right to it. The recently released, much anticipated ESPN/Netflix documentary, The Last Dance. So, of course, highlighting the final year of the Bulls dynasty, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Phil Jackson, the whole 9 yards. So, obviously, recently they just released episodes number 1 and 2. Let's get right to it. What were your takeaways from the first 2 episodes? What stood out for you?
To be honest, my first impressions is, it makes me feel young because I actually wasn't born when he got drafted. So that made me feel really good about myself. I think it's awesome to be able to dig back into it. I think, people my generation, we didn't watch Jordan live a whole lot. I was, like I said, not even born yet when he got drafted. So just to be able to revisit the greatness. And I'm one of those people that thinks a million different ways. So I'm watching it, I'm like, it's not fair to people, it's not fair to Zion to kind of start talking about the greatest of all time when you watch who Jordan was as a player, right? And that's just after the first episode or 2, let's talk about it again later, but still the greatness was so great. And that was the immediate impact I took from it.
So you're from the generation that audaciously believes that LeBron is the GOAT, right?
No, you know what? It's funny. I'm one of the people that I'm not buying into these conversations because LeBron, Michael, and Kobe are the 3 that you always have a case, but I'm not comparing them anymore, right? It's just not right. They're all fantastic. They are the best.
Dwayne Morgan, what were your initial thoughts, takeaways, episodes 1 and 2, The Last Dance?
For me, it was very nostalgic because I was alive during, that time and kind of grew up, watching the Bulls and Ahmad Rashad and all this stuff on, Sundays and stuff like that. So, it was great to have that nostalgic feeling. I think with my own personality and my orientation to the work that I do, I think what really stuck out the most was the desire for excellence, the desire to be great. I think we live in a society today where, we celebrate being mediocre. We celebrate just getting by. And I think he wasn't okay with mediocre. He wasn't okay with getting by. He always wanted to be at the best, be his best. If there was something he could improve on, he wanted to improve. Every time you doubted him, he wanted to show that he could get better. And I think just watching that mentality and what it takes to be great. People just think, oh, these people are just wake up and they're born great, but it's the work ethic. And, and Kobe talked about that too, the getting out of bed when you don't want to get out. That's what it takes to be great. And for so many young kids who want the glory, but don't want to do the work, this is a great reminder of if you never saw Jordan play, why do you even know Jordan's name? This is the reason why. This is what he did to ensure that he had a legacy, to ensure that he was great, to ensure that people saw what greatness looked like.
I think the biggest takeaway for me was the process and the difference back then and how it is now. You even look at Scottie Pippen, he went to NAIA college that nobody's heard of, right? And Michael Jordan getting cut from his varsity team. They had the failures and the adversity that they had to overcome. And even when they thought they were the greatest, or they might have knew they were the greatest, they had people there, telling them, you guys ain't shit. I don't think there's a greater competitor than Michael Jordan. He's just the ultimate competitor. And that's what I took away from it.
For me, one of the things that stood out was actually just how toxic things were between, management and the players, the relationship between Jerry Krause and Scottie Pippen in particular, and then Michael Jordan, and, even how it was documented how they openly ridiculed him and disrespected him. All that turmoil was going on, but yet they were still able to, focus and to win. I have to admit one thing, I think I told some of you guys, before we got on, I cried like a baby watching episodes 1 and 2. I probably cried at least 5 or 6 times. Just really emotional. I mean, I'm of the same generation of, I guess, the fellas here on the call. Growing up watching Michael Jordan and, just the dominance and watching him win 3 championships in a row, and then obviously taking a little bit of a break for about a year and a half, and then coming back and then winning another 3. And it's amazing to see, and we're only 2 episodes in, right? Just a lot of the, behind the scenes and the ins and outs. And as I said, it is a bit surprising just how toxic things were around the team. Those things we hear happening obviously in sports nowadays, and usually it doesn't lead to winning, to championships. So how they were still able to stay focused, stay on target, and to, dominate and to win in that final year, despite all that stuff going on. And, I wasn't aware that Phil Jackson actually was told before the start of that last season that regardless of what happened, even if he went 82-0, that, he wasn't coming back. They were going to go in a different direction. They didn't want to pay him. I guess they didn't want to pay Pippen. And, they saw that everyone was getting old. They wanted to blow it up. So, which actually leads me to the next question, because obviously that's what eventually happened. That's what they did. They didn't have an opportunity to possibly win, a 4th in a row, 7 overall, which would have been 7 in 9 years. So what were your thoughts on that?
I'm kind of with Jordan on that, where they showed the interview with him saying, "Hey, let us ride this out. Let people beat us. We're the champions. Let's keep this unit together and let people beat us. And when they beat us, then you could say, all right, now it's time to make a move in a different direction." I think anything prior to that is premature. And, we can now look back and be like, yeah, they blew everything up and they're still trying to piece it together in Chicago. It's never been fixed since that time. So, I mean, that was a massive blow up that they're still trying to rebuild from. And I think it was a major mistake at that point. Like you have that core, you have something amazing and historic. Let them go out there and let somebody beat you when you're at the top.
Yeah, the Bulls have actually won only 45% of their games, since that time period, since Jordan left, since they blew up the dynasty. So they've been a losing and, let's call it what it is, a pathetic franchise pretty much ever since.
The human ego is a very serious thing, right? Like you think about, just imagine you're the general manager of a team. You've pretty much built like 90% of that squad. You've won 5 championships in 7 years, and you want to blow it up. You want to rebuild. Obviously, it's crazy if you're a fan and you're watching from the outside. But I think that also speaks to how difficult it is to win and to continue to win, because you got to have everybody on the same page. And just the fact that they were able to win that 6th championship through all that adversity is,
right.
That just shows you how great those guys were. They, especially as a team, the players and the coaching staff, to stay together. Even talking about how Pippen was just all over Krause on the bus and just, at practice, wherever, right? Just couldn't imagine how toxic it would be to be in that position. And what's funny is too, thinking, like, just watching it just reminded me that happened. Like, I totally had forgotten that Pippen had gotten injured in that season and that he was actually holding out, not wanting to play for the Bulls anymore.
So it was revealed in the documentary, and some of us know this from even back then, that he had the option of, doing his surgical procedure earlier in the summer, but because of all of that turmoil and everything going on, he said, hey, I'm not going to let this jeopardize my summer. I'm going to enjoy my summer, live my best life. And he basically opted to do his surgery, at the tail end of summer, which obviously led into the season, and he wasn't ready to come back until, I believe, about December, January. And we saw Jordan's comments on that, he pretty much called it, selfish. What were your thoughts on that, on Pippen, making that decision?
I've never been a professional athlete where, my body and is worth millions and millions of dollars. So it's hard to sit here and really like judge that with credibility. Mm-hmm. But the thing that really bothered me about Pippen, and I was learning all this as well, is that, he was paid, like, he had the 122nd salary in the league at the time and probably the second best player. they used and abused him. Now, he made a huge mistake signing that contract, and he had people tell him not to. But I mean, I know it's completely different, but Masai paid Kyle, okay, at the beginning of this year, because it's the right thing to do, because he just won a championship, because he deserved it. And so Scotty clearly didn't feel that he was going to get what he deserved, right? And so I think, and we see it more now than ever, like, yeah, guys got to look out for themselves and their bodies. And I mean, hey, I think he was playing the game. Sure, I'm sure Jordan would have loved to see him out there. And I'm sure, you know, the coach in me would have loved to see him out there. But then, you know, you also have to understand it is a business just as much as it was a business for Jerry Krause. I mean, yes, obviously they're painting him, and sure, like, he's not my favorite person probably either, but he assembled that team. He's a business guy. Sure. He had the confidence that he could do it, right? I mean, he had a great record in terms of that. So, I mean, yeah, I would have liked to see him play, but I'm not going to say he was wrong for doing it. It was his decision to make, and he was used and abused. I mean, he wasn't getting anywhere near what he should have been getting. I'll just say this, though, just drawing the parallels, because you look at Golden State, and there's always going to be that comparison. Well, Golden State has kind of, like, KD left, you know, like, those decisions, there have been some decisions made by the guys themselves. It's just, it's time. And Scotty clearly didn't feel that it was time until he, just at the end there, right? He was requesting the trade at the end of that second episode. But you got to think that these guys also, they know when it's time to stay, time to go.
You're not just, like, you're playing team sports. You got 14 other guys in the coaching staff, and, you know, all your, like, those guys are relying on you, especially you're Pippen. You're, arguably the second best player in the NBA, and you decide not to play. Yeah, you're putting a lot of pressure on those guys.
Kind of separating the sport from the business, because pro sports is such a big business. And that's where I think a lot of times we can debate and have conversations and have struggles mentally about it, because professional sports is a business before anything else.
Absolutely.
You
know? Well, I guess I just kind of figure, like,
I hear you. No, I hear you.
If you sign the contract, right? It's almost like, in the music business, you sign that deal, it's a bad deal, but you got to finish out that deal before you can get out of it. Yeah, right. So you just got to do the work.
I would have helped. He would have been great. He would have figured it out, right?
But once again, to the question, I mean, when management made the decision to blow it up, and they justified it by basically saying, Michael Jordan was the only one out of, the crew that, kind of still had it. Everyone else was getting old or had injuries or other issues and this and that. And they saw fit to, blow it up at that particular point. To that specific, and I'll just get you on this, Amy, as we wind down. Do you think that they kind of jumped the gun there, or should they have possibly, ran it back at least another year? And to the point that even what Dwayne said, as Michael Jordan said in the actual documentary, don't blow it up until we lose. Let us decide when it's time to kind of blow it up. What are your thoughts on management kind of making that decision? Was it a little early? What are your thoughts on that?
Again, like, I'm not a GM, so I wish that they wouldn't have created that turmoil. And I do agree that I don't think you should blow it up while you're still winning, and you hope that your guys kind of can have that open conversation. I'm getting older. I think I might, whatever. But I don't agree with the coach, because like Phil Jackson, how do you tell a coach who's just won, 2, chasing 3, this is your last year, and then he gets 3 and then tells them still too bad? Like, that's crazy, because that's his system. So, like, if you're the GM and you want that credibility and you want that trust, and your system has worked up until now, because at the end of the day, they were still winning championships, you've got to put that same trust into your coach. And so that, to me, I think it was when it started with Phil, when it starts with your coach, when it starts with your leader, that those guys seem to really, trust and believe in his system. So you start going at him, of course it's going to fall apart. And so 100%, I don't think it was right with Phil Jackson. The players, you can always debate about age, about, fit, direction. You can always talk about that. But the coach, I don't understand that one. Now, that's the one that really bothered me.
Mr. Morgan, any final thoughts, man?
I just think to one of Amy's points, like, when you're talking about, someone whose body is worth millions of dollars, I mean, you also have to look at the fact that if you're not 100% totally in it, the risk of injury is so much greater. There's things that just kind of magically happen with your body when your mind is totally, in the zone. And when you have that other stuff, like, these guys aren't treating me well, I'm being underpaid, they don't respect me, all this kind of stuff. You get out on the court and you're not given that full 100, you're not in that zone, you can get injured and not get that next contract. So, looking at it from the player business side, it's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I do kind of take it easy and try to figure out what I'm going to do here, because I don't feel like they respect the value in what I'm bringing here.
Any last thoughts, AK?
Yeah, I think the whole Krause and the dynasty kind of just falling apart. I think it was written pretty early. Like if you watched the first 2 episodes, was it when Jordan had broken his foot early on in his career and he was on that minutes restriction? Remember they were talking about how Jerry Krause was telling the coach, like, don't put him in the game, like, and he was questioning if they were about winning or if they were about just trying to get a better draft pick. Mm-hmm. And I think from there you could tell that there was going to be a power struggle. But
what's crazy is they still won the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's absolutely. The thing is, like, if they would have lost that game, it would have been so much worse. But because they won the game, it kind of was like, at what point are you going to just say, I'm going to show up and do my job on the court and understand that the decisions upstairs? Like, I'm not saying I could do it well. Like, that would be hard, but they still won the game. I thought it was crazy too. I think that's totally what started the huge downfall. But they won the basketball game. It's crazy.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. That's sports. You can't. Yeah. Sometimes you can't control what's going to happen. You can try, but you got competitors out there. They're trying to win.
For sure. So, guys, let's leave it there for now. So much more we could discuss. I'm sure we're all very much looking forward to episodes 3 to 10. I'll see how many more tears I shed.
when they bring Rodman in, I'm going to watch it back to back twice. Like, that's what I'm waiting for.
That should be very interesting.
And I think it might be next week, right? Like,
they
got to get him in there. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's centered around Dennis Rodman, so that should be interesting. Guys, thanks so much for being here once again. This is our 2-year anniversary show, so really glad to spend this time with you guys. Thanks for sharing your perspectives on The Last Dance. This is Toronto Talk Sports and more.
Thank you for watching. Please click the like button and leave us a comment with your feedback. And don't forget to subscribe with notifications to see more engaging and interactive content. Toronto Talk Sports and more. For the love of the six, let's connect.